Fine.
A lot of people are worried. I can give you a narrative that says a lot of people think that everybody thinks the market's higher and people being very timid about it. If you look in the price action, not to be too at the coal face, but and we'll see what happens. Very bad to be in the prediction business. But you see what happens even when the market goes down and they're waiting for them. Everyone's waiting, looking at their watches, waiting for it to go down 10% so they could buy it down 10.1%. It's never quite getting there. The price action is actually not that bad. But I'd say looking at the fundamentals of it, two things. There are a lot of positives for the economy, and you've ticked through these things before, from the energy situation to the resurgence of housing to really the most important thing is having reversed all the leverage that was in the system and kind of reset the clock in a lot of ways, both on the corporate side and also on the consumer side. And that'll play out. It doesn't mean we won't have a lot of anxiety or bad days or bad months or bad quarters. But, the analogy I'd make, and, maybe this sounds too, euphoric, but when I got out of school in the late 70s, through the 1980 period, we had a period of time when you had double-digit unemployment, inflation, followed by money policy that led to double-digit unemployment, and big malaise, and just a very terrible time in the markets, in the economy for the U.S. And at the moment that people would have been their most desperate, if you look back, the sentiment was trailing the fact that the clock had been reset, and we really had a 20-year, positive period after that.
We talked to the Treasury Secretary earlier about oil and energy prices. Is there a bad side to energy prices coming down as far as they have?
Well, you can make a short-term or a sector bad call, bad aspect to it. So, for example, a big percentage of investment in the United States, capital investment, is in the oil sector. If they withdraw that, that's in the short term a negative. And you could go play. Look, can you make anything good out of a hurricane or a natural disaster that wipes out a lot of wealth in the country? Well, that's generally thought to be stimulative in the short term to the market because now people are going to spend. So you can take something that's a blessing, lower price of oil, which one should think of like a tax cut, and make it in the short term a negative by saying, oh, now people won't invest because now they'll have to abandon investment projects. So in the short term, or in this sector, in energy, which is a big part, and so you could look at the Dow index and say there's some negativity. I'd say there's another aspect to it which I think is a little convoluted, which is the people want to raise inflationary expectations, want to avoid deflation, and this is particularly pronounced in Europe. And that's really a means to an end. That's deflation. That's not the economy itself. That's a device for charging the economy. Well, sometimes that's become an object. So the mere fact that something is going to happen that's going to take prices down looms as a negative. Europe should be ecstatic. Is much more favored by the low energy costs, energy price. U.S. is relatively balanced between importing and exporting at this point. Europe is far and away an importer of oil, so it's a very big boon to their economy.
Where do you stand on China?
But they don't like the fact that it's deflationary.
That's true. China appears to be slowing down. At least that's what we hear. Is it even slower? Do you believe the numbers in China?
Do I believe the numbers? I believe there are numbers. There are, I would say that I think it's very hard to gauge, and it's hard to, and I'm not sure what they're measuring things in the same way. I'm not sure what they're measuring. I think it's a less sophisticated capital allocation system. I'm not sure that they're collecting the information the way we would in a sophisticated metric.
But you don't think they're manipulating the numbers?
I don't know. How do I know? I'm not taking it that they are. I'd say my overall view of China is that over the long term, they're going to do very well. I've said this, other times before. This could very well be the Chinese century, the way the 20th century was the American century, and America. It may have been the American century, but every year wasn't an American year. We had a lot of problems. In fact, we had a lot of problems more than 1 year in a row. We had a depression that lasted effectively 10 years. And it was still an awfully good century. And I wouldn't want to leave China with, with another 85 years to go in the century.
Where does that leave us then?
The United States?
Yeah.
Why, in what way?
If this is the Chinese century,
It's not a zero-sum.
Do we become